Welcome back to the Club F. Fuck that up big time.
Hey, it's okay. I'll edit it out.
Yeah.
Or I won't. Maybe I'll put this in there to open the show.
What the fuck is up? And the mics are hot, the stream is live. I don't want a 9 to 5, but this YouTube shit's in a downward spiral. Hey, don't worry, we're never going viral.
Welcome back to the Club F Radio podcast, the only podcast that is officially recorded within a toaster. Today, I'm joined by Jay Gatsby. I'm your host, Super64, as always. And today, I would like to talk about just our life in general, like some of our past, some of our plans for the future. You know what we got going on behind the scenes that we don't talk about a whole lot on stream. We do sometimes, but not in depth. So I thought we'd start there and just see where we fucking end up. So
I honestly think this is a great stream for where we are this year, because this has been kind of an ongoing internal debate that I have of how much of your personal life does your audience really want to hear. Because your hardcore fans will be very genuine and very understanding, and then your less vocal fans will change their behavior based on things they don't like but won't speak up. And so there are times when I don't want to talk about stuff like this, but because I am very confident that if we make changes with the channel we will be successful, I think it's a great time to talk about the reality of how the channel has affected our real lives. So yeah.
Yeah, and we've also in the past have been a little more secretive. Like, for the longest time, no one knew you were a teacher, and we had to keep that like super under wraps.
Yeah.
And like I couldn't really say that I worked in IT at your school because we worked at the same school for like 3 years.
I remember when that frustrated you because not to do this out of order, but we had arguments for a long time about whether or not I needed to be so secretive about my job. And once we finally put those arguments behind us, Chase was like, well, goddamn, I want to talk about my job, and now I can't because it's kind of also your job.
just a little bit. I could have skirted around it, but I was afraid someone would figure it out. And I was just like, fuck it, whatever. But here we are now, both in new jobs. So I guess we can just start there if you want to talk about your current job, because I mean I can talk about mine because mine's relatively new. So
yeah, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
No, you go first. We'll talk about yours.
Okay. Well, for those of you who have not heard this story before, yes, I went to college to be a teacher. And I only went to college to be a teacher because I wanted to write novels for a living, and you don't exactly go to college to learn how to write novels. So I thought, okay, I could really see myself enjoying teaching because my last couple of years in high school were very wholesome. And I was like, I could really see myself enjoying that environment. And having the summers off will possibly help me have time to write. The unfortunate thing about that is that my biggest piece of advice to anyone still trying to figure out their career is that when every single person that is already in your career tells you not to go into it, listen to them. Because teaching is one of those careers that is slowly, at least in America, really declining because more and more expectations are placed on teachers with less and less resources to make it happen. And I think the general public has that oversimplified. They're like, well, teachers don't get paid that much. Teacher salary is okay. Like, teacher salary is good for like living off of. And I think theoretically I could have had a house, like a nice house and a nice life, and went on vacations in the summer and things that a lot of people take for granted. The problem is that if you really break down what your pay is versus how much you have to work, because they make you do so much work after you're supposed to have already gone home and be free, it's well under a reasonable pay. So I worked in the school setting for 3 years, and the thing that a lot of people fear happened to me. I was pink slipped. you as a teacher have no guarantee you won't be let go until you get tenure. And then once you get tenure, it's a weird situation where once you're tenured, the criteria for firing you becomes fair. Like, they have to actually have a reason to fire you instead of just being like, all right, let's get somebody new and cheaper. The thing happened to me that a lot of people worry about. I got to my 3rd year, and instead of giving me tenure, they let me go. And so I started teaching reading intervention, which was a contract position. It wasn't a full-time position, but it was still pretty good pay, and it was way less work. But when coronavirus hit, that position ceased to exist because it was kind of non-essential. Thankfully, and here's the fascinating part about this, bro-op is something that I've enjoyed greatly, but there are times when both of us kind of get a lot of stress about it because we're just like, how much effort should we be putting into this thing because it's not a real job? Bro-op got me my real job now, because whenever Bro-op partnered with chrono.gg, I gave feedback on one of their polls, and they observed that my feedback wasn't stupid. Like, it was actually well thought out, well explained. And so our representative reached out and was like, would you be interested in working with us as an actual employee? And hop, skip, and a jump away, that company sunset and now has become nexus.gg. So I went to school to be a teacher, and now I get paid quite a bit of money to write tweets. And I can't say that I don't prefer it. I like it a lot better. My quality of life is so much better. The only downside, really, is that it's a startup. I have no guarantee that the position will still exist tomorrow. So it's very much a gamble, but it's a much more fun job.
Right.
So I know that was long, but that's me reaching it to a wrap up.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you can talk about as long as you want. But I was just gonna say, like, you don't have benefits, right? You're kind of like, you're in like a weird mix between part-time and full-time. Like, it's
contract work is weird in that regard, because I think they do a lot of things to make sure that I feel like part of the family, but it's abundantly clear that I'm not. Like, I'm not on the list of employees on the website. I was at one point, and then whenever I had to be let go the first time, there were concerns with how many employees they could afford to pay, and then they rehired me on later. But once I was rehired on, I wasn't on the list of employees anymore, and I don't suppose I will be until I'm a real employee. And we had in a meeting the other day, we had a thing about open enrollment for benefits. And I was just like, I really just want to ask how many of these people are contract and how many aren't. I know it's probably not really kosher for me to do so, but like, it becomes a little, I often feel like the kid who is in the dodgeball game because his older brother's in the dodgeball game, who can't really tell if he would have been invited otherwise.
Yeah. I bet that feels weird to be like, not necessarily like a cast out, but like, I don't know how to word it. What I'm trying to say, like, you're part of the, like you said, you're part of the family, but not, because like when we still worked at the same school, I used to have a problem with any time a staff sheet would go around, I was never on it ever.
That pissed me off.
Yeah, if there was like a party and they were like ordering food for everybody, or just taking up orders and you had to pay for your own food, like, my name was never on it. I was never considered a staff member of the middle school. And it at the end of the day, it makes sense because I was a central office employee. I worked for the central office. I got assigned to that middle school. So I kind of get it. Like, those sheets might have come around from the central office and I just didn't know it. But anyway, point is, my name was never on it. So I kind of get what you're going through a little bit, even though they definitely seen me as an employee, because I was often referred to as like the busiest man in the building, which is a complete lie. I'm just really good at looking like I've got something to do. But,
exactly, yeah.
But yeah, they would always be like, "Oh man, you're the man everybody wants to see," blah blah blah, because they think computers stay tore up like 24/7, which is just not a thing that really happens.
Well, likewise, there were two things that didn't bother you as much as they bothered me in terms of how much respect you got. One of them was that your job title was tech guy, I think it could have been a better job title than that, personally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my job title was technician, which sounds a little more fancy.
The
but
sign always said tech guy. We got a brand new building. It still said tech guy.
The sign always said tech guy. Every kid in the school called me tech guy. Didn't know my name. Some of them did. Like the really polite kids that you can tell grew up in like a really nice house and family and stuff. Like the straight A kids, they were nice. They'd be like, "Oh, Mr. blah blah blah." You know, they would call me by name instead of just tech guy. But like 99% of that school, I was just tech guy. Like sometimes I would even get packages shipped to me that just said to the tech guy. And I was just come on, man.
Let's see. The other thing that bothered me was, so Chase and I were both professionals that worked in schools. We both went to college. We both got a great deal of like professional training. We were professionals, but his office had to have a window in it because he wasn't allowed to be around kids unsupervised. And it was like, it was really easy for me to get a substitute teacher like certificate before I was even formally educated. So just me, the dude off the street who got fingerprinted, could be around kids, but this guy with a degree couldn't. Like, I always thought that was so fucking stupid. And go ahead.
I was gonna say, it absolutely is stupid. And to give a little context to this, because it almost sounds like some sort of pedophile type thing, but it's not. Like if you're not certified, if you're not seen by the state as a certified employee, you can't be around kids alone, because then they can say, "Oh, well, so and so touched me," and then it's your word against them, and you're probably gonna get fired. So at the end of the day, the windows were technically to protect me. Like,
protect you.
Yeah, like, so if a kid come in there and said, "Oh, if he broke his Chromebook," and I was just like, "You're gonna have to pay for this," and they were just like, "No, the fuck I'm not. I'm gonna tell everybody you touched my dick or something," you know, if there were no windows, I would potentially be screwed in that situation. But since there's, fucking windows everywhere, people can see in there. If they tried to pull that shit, I'd just be like, "Get the fuck out of my office."
Exactly. But I do remember at one point, you see, because I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as a disrespect to you. And I was like, if you just went and got your substitute teacher certification, this wouldn't be a problem anymore. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, because then they would ask him to sub. They would be like, we're short a teacher, we need you to go do this, and that would be even more disrespectful.
Yeah. Artemis says in chat, wouldn't there be cameras in there? No, you cannot have cameras in classrooms at all. It is illegal. You can't have them in
our state.
Yeah, and in our state, you can't have them near. They can't be looking into bathrooms. Obviously, that's a very obvious one. You can't have them in classrooms. You can't have them to where they even look into like administrators' offices. Like, there's pretty strict rules when it comes to cameras. Now we had 60 of them, but
and a lot of times teachers would skirt that because we were heavily encouraged to record our lessons because we were heavily scrutinized by the quality of our teaching, and they had to, like, every now and then you'd just be teaching and the principal or somebody would just walk in and announce with like a clipboard, and it's like, great, I am now on the spot. Like, I'm now being graded on my teaching, despite what might be going on in my life or in my classroom at the time. And so a lot of teachers would just constantly record so that we could use that to show our administrators, but also so that we could be like, well, I just so happened to be recording and I caught Billy just screaming the N-word. So now he's really doing this and I'm not just full of shit.
Kids suck. Like if anybody here is considering going into being like a teacher or working with children, unless you have already got some experience in that, I would advise against it personally.
If you don't live in America, you have my blessing. America is a really bad place to teach right now, but I will also admit that we literally live in the state that is at the bottom of the fucking barrel in terms of education. So my perspective is heavily skewed. Yeah. It might not be this bad everywhere else in America.
Yeah, it might not be bad in like the states that are in like the top 10 of education or something. They might have amazing kids. But around here, it's like he said, are we like 48th or something? We're like, Mississippi's dead last, right?
I think we occasionally trade Mississippi for dead last, kind of like Pluto and like Uranus or whatever, like switching places in orbit. Like
Yeah.
we're just
Yeah,
constantly...
we're very fucking close to last place, basically. And like he said, the kids around here are shitty. Now, that's not to say there's not good kids, because there are, but a lot of them suck. And it's not even necessarily their fault. They grow up in shitty houses, shitty parents, but that's another topic.
And honestly, like, if I have a moment to say this without making the whole podcast about teaching, I wouldn't even say that the kids are shitty per se, because every teacher I talk to, or every like adult who I talk to that I'm just like, yeah, I taught middle school, and they'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, that sounds terrible, those kids must have been bad. My answer is always the same: the kids are fine, it's the adults I hate, because there's so much fucking bureaucratic bullshit with the employees you have to work with. There's so much like gossipy shit and political shit, and then there's also the parents that are enabling their bad behavior. Like, it seems to me like as soon as I try to hold a kid accountable in the same way I was held accountable in school, I'm the bad guy for even trying to hold a kid accountable. And I can't really wrap my mind around that. I don't want to sound like a boomer and be like, back in my day, this, that, and the other. That I really try to make sure that I'm not just grounded in outdated thinking. But they let kids get away with murder now, and it's really frustrating because it undermines my job. And so, that's why I said it's not the kids that are a problem, it's the adults. Because if I just had to teach kids and that was it, the job would have been fine. No, Artemis, not literal murder, but kids do get away with all kinds of fucked up shit. Let's see. Frame of reference, kids get away with plagiarism. Plagiarism is a huge problem right now in that because the kids don't fucking pay attention when we're trying to explain what plagiarism is and that it's intellectual theft, they don't realize they're doing it when they do it because they've not paying attention. They've tuned out every time we try to explain it. So they do it by accident, and then the teacher gets blamed for them stealing intellectual information. And so there's a big thing now where like kids are called victims of plagiarism, where they're the ones doing the plagiarizing. And you're supposed to give these kids chance after chance after chance to keep trying to cheat. When I was in school, you got a 0 and you said, fuck off, kids, stop cheating. Like, so shit like that, like it's a real big problem.
Yeah, and to not double sound like a boomer, he's absolutely right. Like, school now, compared to when we were in school, is totally different. Like, when we were in school, there weren't cameras in the hallways. Like, there were no cameras. You could only get on a computer if you went to the computer lab. Like, you didn't have a Chromebook just with you all the fucking time, or in the room, or whatever. So like, it's interesting to see how different kids are today compared to us. Now, I'm not going to say that I wasn't a shitty kid sometimes. We all were.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like, it is like wildly different now. Like, it's just, it's night and day difference to me.
Yeah. So to kind of pull it back, that I think that's heavily fueled the change in the winds for both of us, because your new position is still in the school system but doesn't have really anything to do with kids. And then my new position is not even the school system at all. And just for our own financial safety, I'm constantly encouraged by people in my family, keep looking at teaching jobs, and I apply to all of them. But I can tell you right now, I'm not going to get one, because I am going to be brutally honest in those interviews, because I already tried playing the game and I still got pink slipped. Like, it's so frustrating to keep your thoughts to yourself and bite your tongue and do all of the unsatisfying, unethical things to get tenure, and it doesn't work. So there have been interviews I've had where I've just been like, okay, what's your accountability policy for kids that don't do the work? And they're just like offended that I even asked. And I'm just like, that's important to me. Like, that's all there is to it. Like, this is just as much me interviewing you as the other way around. And they're so offended that they don't hire me. And that's okay, because I don't want to work for another fucking school that will let Jimmy graduate, even though he sat in the corner with his head down all year and we couldn't do anything about it. Like, I'm not comfortable with that.
And that has only gotten like 100 times worse since Corona hit, because if they went remote and they didn't do any of their fucking work and you fail that kid, you're probably going to get sued by the parents, because we were in a pandemic. They were too stressed to do their homework. And
Yeah.
They just have to pass them. Like, that's all there is to it. It's super fucked up. Like, you wouldn't know any of this unless you worked in a school or like something. Like, even if you were a janitor in a school, you would hear about this kind of stuff. Because, like, obviously, I don't deal with kids. I used to with Chromebooks and stuff, but I don't anymore, thank God. So I guess that can kind of segue into my new job. I have since left the middle school that me and Jesse were both at, and I have taken up the network administrator position at another district that my dad works at. And it is so much nicer. I don't exactly get to do network-related things yet because they already have a network administrator who's been there literally since I was in high school. And he's kind of power hungry, and I've noticed that about a lot of network administrators that I've been around. Once they have control of something, they don't want to relinquish control of it to anyone. Like he knows all the passwords, all the everything, and he won't share it with anyone. And I kind of get it. He's real big on security to a fault. Like, it kind of sucks, but I get it. So one day he's going to have to train me to take over his position.
Yeah.
And that's why I got hired in this. Like, at first I felt like almost imposter syndrome nearly, because I was like, man, I feel like my dad's getting me this job instead of me earning it. But then I found out that his boss specifically asked for me. Like, he was just like, hey, you think your son would want to work here? I want to interview him. And so that made me feel a little bit better. And then I had a little bit of imposter syndrome when I got there, because I was like, well, I have the title, but I don't get to do any of the work. Like, I don't get to do any of this network stuff. But in the meantime, I'm doing other, like, administrator stuff. Like, I'm not going to explain what E-rate is and all this stuff, but I have to do a bunch of E-rate stuff. I have to apply for, like, grants and shit. Like, the other day, I had to ask the federal government for, like, $89,000 for just stuff, and I had to do all that research myself. I had to submit all the claims and everything myself. So I'm learning to do a bunch of stressful shit that I've never had to do before. But it's interesting that I jumped from, like, technician straight to network administrator. Like, and I mean, even though I'm not doing the network side of things, I'm getting network admin pay. So, like, I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. And, like, that's not me trying to brag. It's just I made such a huge jump. I basically jumped from the top, or from the bottom of the ladder to the top. Like, the only place I could go from here in this job is to the district technology officer, or what are they called? Director of technology. So, and I think my current main boss is slowly grooming me to take her position. And when she quits, which I don't know when this will be. This may be 10, 20 years from now. Who knows? But that's about the only other place I could move up here without going somewhere else. So that's exciting and scary that I jumped from the bottom to the top. And now we're here. Like, it's interesting and very stressful at the same time.
So, like, you have essentially escalated up the ladder that you wanted to escalate up.
Pretty much, yes.
I sort of shot sideways into a different career, and as much as I want to escalate, I don't have any of the formal education, and every time they put me in charge of something that would potentially showcase my skills, I kind of fumble it because I'm still new to this shit. So, like, for example, first I want to pause and thank Cornchip so much for your stuff.
Yes.
Cornchip says, I don't know what this convo is exactly about since I just joined, but I hope it goes well for you. Thank you so much, Cornchip. You'll catch up. To give a frame of reference, I was originally being groomed to become a partnerships manager because with Chrono, I was a partnerships coordinator, and a large portion of my job was to search for potential Chrono partners, do outreach, and I would research them first. I would also honestly stalk them in order to send the perfect love letter. Like, I would learn a lot about their channel and their community and what they like and how they talk, and I would send an email to kind of cater to that personality and really explain what it was we did. And I had a lot of success on that, but the problem with any sort of marketing outreach is that it really relies on whether or not they answer the fucking phone. Like, I did it all purely through email, sometimes through Twitter, And if they're big enough and you don't already have a pre-existing connection, they're just not going to fucking answer. And so there were a lot of times whenever I didn't feel like I was good at my job, when in reality I just didn't have the connections. And that's also why I didn't get the partnerships manager position that I was essentially being trained for, because it really came down to it to where it was like, listen, we really want Nexus to succeed. And so we need somebody that already has these connections. And that makes sense, because I would never be able to get somebody like 𝐿𝐷𝐿 to answer the phone. But that is potentially something on the horizon, because the partnerships managers we have now know these people. So I can respect and understand that. There's not really anything I can do about that except get more experience. But it almost feels like a lot of the respect that I've earned in this new job is either stagnating or occasionally backsliding, because I'm still new to this. Even though I've been doing this for several years, I'm still ultimately pretty fucking new to this. So I don't think I have the job satisfaction that you have right now, but I will say that my work-life balance is so incredible by comparison to teaching. Oh, it's so good. If I start having an anxiety attack at work, I close everything and I start playing a video game. I can just do that. I can go take a nap. It just feels so much better.
Yeah, and I don't get it too twisted. Like, I like this job way more than my last one, but I don't have complete satisfaction yet, because I feel like by the time I'm going to get to start working on the networking things, I'm not going to remember most of my training from college, because I don't now. That was a long time ago. Yeah. And I haven't got to do anything network related in 6, 7, 8 years, you know? So like by the time I have to learn it, and technology moves so fast on its own anyway, it's going to be like completely new to me. So yeah. You know, I'll just have to wait and see how things work out. I may not even stay at this job. Who the fuck knows? But as of right now, I enjoy it a whole lot more, because at my other school, I had to sit in an office for 8 hours a day, and I didn't get to do anything but sit in that office. And now I'm assigned to like several different schools, so I have my own company vehicle and everything. Like, I have to drive around a lot. Like, my office is my truck.
I think that kind of need for me is part of what really keeps me engaged, because I have a problem that I can't necessarily get anybody to feel bad for me for, because they don't understand it. But because I've still not really gotten on top of whatever attention disorder I have really bad brain fog sometimes if I stay in one place too long. And so that's really dangerous for my remote position. And so I was going to try to get it figured out and maybe possibly get some ADHD medication. But again, this position doesn't have benefits because I'm only a contract. So like, I'm constantly afraid that I'm going to lose my job because I don't have the benefits to get the mental health help I need. So like, whenever you talk about how you've gone from sitting to being actively going from place to place, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I would need. Like, I really enjoyed not emailing people as a teacher and just walking down to their room. I think a lot of them hated that about me, but yeah, that's something that really helped.
It's so nice to not have to sit all the fucking time. Now sometimes, like I said, when I have to sit down and do that, like, grant stuff, like I have to sit down for several days and do paperwork, and that's expected. Yeah. But most of the time, I get to run around a lot, and that has helped me lose weight and keep it off. Like, I was like around 220 like all the time, but now I'm around 200 all the time, which is what I want. Yeah. So it's been nice in more than one way, which is awesome. But yeah, I don't really know where to segue from here. Oh no,
well,
I do.
You had mentioned. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, I have a question for you, rather.
Yeah, sure.
If you could go back and not get a degree in teaching, what would you do?
You see, I
don't mean go back now. I mean, like, go back in time and change it.
Go back in time. So here's the thing. I don't know how easy it would be to get a job doing this, but the current hope is by working in the games industry in the way that I am now, I want to make the acquaintances and do the networking to possibly down the road get a job in the games industry, not just doing retail. Like, I really enjoyed partnerships coordination, because that was talking to content creators who have been in the same shoes that I've been in and giving them help and helping them to feel appreciated for the work that they do. Like, that felt awesome to be like, hey man, I fucking see you. I see your content. It's good content. Here's how we can help you and you can help us. But I would like to be working with the actual creation of games. And when I was in school, people would be like, well, you should go into games development. And I'd be like, I'm not smart enough for that. Like I don't want to program, and that's all I know to do. Like when you talk about going to school for game development, when we were in school, that meant coding. Like nobody knew any other outlet for games development. When now it's more clear to, I think, most people that game development is coding, yes, but it's also graphic design. It's also marketing. It's also all these different things. And I finally found out what the job I wanted the whole time was called. And it's called narrative designer. A narrative designer isn't necessarily the guy who writes the script from front to back, but it is the person who figures out the big picture as it pertains to the situation that you're in. So, for example, if you are writing the script for a TV show that's a serial that comes out like every week or something like that, and one of your big actors fucking dies, a narrative designer's job is to figure out a way to write around that in such a way that it makes sense. And I have thoroughly enjoyed doing shit like that for D&D, for bro-op videos, for whenever like we're trying to create a narrative and then Chase is like, I fucking hate No Man's Sky. So like I have to try to write him out in a way, and I enjoy that. Now, is it easy to get a job doing that? I have no fucking idea. But I've seen games when they have bad narrative design, and I've went, God, I would have loved to have been the guy to fix that. Like,
yeah,
I really
I'm sure
like
that
shit.
is hard to get into, because you got to think, like, a game doesn't have like 2 or 3 coders. They've probably got, like, depending on the game, they may have 200 or 300. You know, so
Yeah.
like there's plenty of open positions for coding as far as game goes, but I don't know how many would be open for like narrative design. So that would probably be harder to get into, but
Yeah.
it would be infinitely more fun, because I too hate programming. I can't stand that shit.
I just think everybody needs to understand, like, from a young age, and don't let go of it, that just because you are good at something doesn't mean that everyone is. Think about any skill that you have that most people around you don't, even if it's something mundane. People will pay you to do that.
Yeah, that's what I was going
like-
to say. If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Exactly, because, you know, some of the jobs that I've been looking at here recently, because I stay looking for full-time jobs. Unfortunately, I also stay really paranoid about my resume, because I've applied to all these teaching jobs and heard no bites back. So I'm just like, well, maybe I just look like a fucking idiot on paper. I don't know. But there was an open position for a community coordinator at Bungie. And I was like, holy shit, I could work at Bungie. I have an in because I am a coordinator. I'm I'm an operations coordinator, but I've also been a partnerships coordinator. I don't know what that word means, but I've had it attached to myself for years. So, you know, like, why the fuck not? And I've managed a community as far as bro-op is concerned. And even though you might say, well, Jesse, have you? Yes, because we have weird drama things pop up, and then I have to put skills that I learned as a teacher towards it. I have to put behavior management skills towards the Discord all the time. And that's why I'm such a hard ass in there, because like I've said this before and I'll say it again, with children, you are kind of aware that their brains aren't fully developed. So you have to kind of explain to them why this behavior is inappropriate, because it's still a learning experience. If you're in my Discord, the assumption is that you're older than 18 and you know better. So you can just fuck off. like if you're behaving this way, you can just fuck off. Artemis says, yes, he tells me to fuck off every month or so. Artemis and I are in a pretty good track right now, to where if we ever have to talk about something dramatic, we just hash it out in DMs, and we are very respectful to each other. It doesn't always go that well. I occasionally have people be like, well, why do I have to follow the rules?
Well, that's what I was about to say. Like, if you're in our Discord and Jesse gets onto you, that's pretty normal. If it comes to the point where I have to get onto you, you done fucked up. Because
Yep.
I'm probably going to ban you.
And that's the thing. Like, that's why I really enjoyed whenever we were nicknamed Mom and Dad for a while, because that is kind of our dynamic, in that like Chase is largely hands off for the Discord, and for a long time didn't want hands on it in any way. And we have both become more active in it now. So it's exactly as he says. Like, if he has been pissed off, he is going to put the smack down. But I will say, you know, I've already told you this before, is that like sometimes I do get in my feelings, and I really want to like have your respect about things that I probably already have it, or who fucking knows if I do. And I remember one day in mod chat, you were like, now don't get me wrong, Jesse will ban a motherfucker. And I was just like, oh, I will.
Yeah, and like, if you're new to the channel and hearing this, don't think that I'll ban you at the drop of a hat. Like, you've really got to piss me off for me to do something. Like, every now and then I'll step in. Like, if somebody's here a while back, there was a huge discussion in like the anime channel about the death of some guy, and I let it go for like 20 minutes, and then they kept talking about it, and I was like, God damn, I'm gonna have to tell them to go elsewhere. So I finally stepped in, and I was just like, get this out of here. This is not the right channel. It's kind of a dick move. I think it's against the rules a little bit to just, not be an asshole about celebrating a man's death, so get it the fuck out of here. And
yeah,
that's what I did. But like, I've only had to ban one person, I think, and we're not gonna go into that like heavily, but like they really pissed me off, and I banned them. So
yeah.
it happens. It'll happen again, but you don't have much to worry about unless you're just a complete dick like all the time.
Well, one thing I'm never sure how it's going to go down is that Chase and I are very respectful of each other's opinions as they pertain to like larger societal issues. And as a consequence of that, we're not always on the same page about things, and we don't really talk about it much. And so there are some times when I worry like what kind of tone we're setting for the channel if we have such different opinions about how things are handled. But I think the easy answer to that is Chase really only steps in whenever it's really heavy. So I don't think that our differences of opinion really factor too often.
Yeah, like I don't typically air out my opinions in the Discord very often. I do sometimes, but like, not a whole lot. Like, I stay completely out of the that feel and like real talk and stuff. Like, I'll occasionally pop in there and say something, but for the most part, I just completely ignore it. And I'm never in there. So like, my conflicting opinions on stuff will very rarely come out.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I think what really the synopsis of that aside was that transferable skills can come in so many different ways that you don't even realize. And if you do anything for a long enough period of time, like, you're getting your 10,000 hours in, you need to be respected for that skill. It's why I think this might be a big piece of like the awkwardness of my resume is that the years and years of experience I have helping to run a Twitch and YouTube channel are very relevant if I try to get a games PR job, but they look really fucking stupid if I'm trying to get a teaching job. Like, it's just like, why is that even on there? So it just really depends on the environment of what kind of thing that you're trying to move into.
Yeah, and like, if you were to put that on a resume for like a new teaching job, it would really depend on the age of your principal. Because if they're older, they're gonna be like, what the fuck's Discord? And if they're younger, they might slightly understand what it is if you explained it.
Well, and speaking of that, I know a good friend of ours, Matt, who is also a Phantom in the chat. He wanted to help give some feedback on my resume. And he was just like, well, why is this on here? I don't really think all this should be on here. And I was like, well, my boss at my current job said it did need to be there. And he was like, where are your references? And I was like, my boss at my current job said my references should never be on my resume unless asked for. And it's just, the worlds are so different. Because like, I was taught completely conflicting shit in school, and apparently all these people that I'm applying at jobs for are just like, who the fuck taught this dude to write resumes? And I'm over here teaching kids to write resumes that way. So like, I just, you never fucking know. So yeah, absolutely, like, take the feedback of those kind of people. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we've talked about our old and current to new jobs, so I guess we need to move on to like, some goals we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah. One of my current, I guess we can go over like short-term and long-term goals, I guess. Yeah. I'll have to think of some. So if you've got one, just go ahead and rattle it off and just say whether it's short or long-term.
Well, I'd say in terms of short-term goals, I really want to turn it out at Nexus and continue to showcase the skills that have already earned me so much respect. Like, currently one of my jobs is to research upcoming games and make sure that my superiors are aware of those upcoming games. And at first, I didn't feel very valued in that because I would bring them up and I would constantly be told we can never get that game. And I was just like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to say, because we're not going to survive selling dipshit indies that nobody wants to play. Like, so I just kept suggesting them. And eventually, like, somebody higher up than me would be like, you know what? Yeah, we need to reach out about that. And then we would get it. So it's just like, I've just got to be persistent. I've just got to be like, just so you know, like, this is still really fucking important. And I'm surprised at how much of, like, a games e-tailer, like a company like this, I'm surprised at how much of it is just the necessity of sharing context, because none of us are unfamiliar with video games. Several of us are very fucking familiar with video games, but there are gaps in all of our knowledge. And every now and then I'll be in a meeting and I'll realize I'm the only one without this gap, to where, like, I'll be in a meeting and it becomes incredibly clear that everybody in the call thinks that Xbox Game Studios, the publisher, only makes games for the Xbox console. And it's just like, oh my God, if I hadn't spoken up here, this would have possibly taken our company in a completely different fucking direction. And that's crazy. It's crazy to me that, you know, I guess it should be pretty common in small companies because you don't have as many people to audit your decision-making process. So, you know, I'm just going to continue to try to give my best and hopefully just fucking stay awake. Like, I literally feel like every day I feel like they're going to fire me because they know that I'm so sleepy. Like, I just feel so fucking tired all the time. And it's not because I'm doing any physical work. It's because of my attention span problems and the fact that I'm just sitting still, desperately, like, guzzling energy drinks and just being like, I hope this kidney stone's worth it because I can't focus.
Ooh, I can tell you right now, it's not. Ooh, it's not.
But, you know, if Nexus makes the next round of fundraising, then I think I would probably have to ask for a full-time position again, and if I can't get it, ask for a raise again. But that is very difficult for me because I don't fully understand the nature of the beast and was very surprised to get the raise that I got. So it's just like, if they don't make me full time, am I prepared to leave? Because I do want this company to succeed and I do believe in what they're doing, but there is clearly a missing piece because our fans love us and I can't get them to buy shit off of our Nexus store. So like there is clearly a missing piece. And I've even been encouraged to talk about this kind of stuff publicly because our company's attitude is if there is something that we're missing that we need to know about it. And so, you know, for us, for example, we tried the raffle thing this week, and the only person that's bought anything off of our store this week has been somebody I work with. So I will more than likely have to explain to him at the end of the month, hey, you want a raffle? Yeah. Like, it's just so weird. But yeah, that's short term, is that I really want a full-time position with Nexus, and if I can't get it, then I'm going to be shotgun applying to other similar jobs. And as much as they have expressed their appreciation for me, I don't feel like that appreciation transfers. I don't think other people see that and want me, because as much as I've done for Nexus, they still go, what the fuck's this teacher doing here?
Yeah, I was going to say that, unfortunately, if for you, I don't see you becoming full-time until you're, like, in the conversation with them of being like, hey, I've got another position being offered to me right now. Like you either make me full time or I'm gone. Because
and that's the thing, like, I also don't see why they would give me full time, because I've made so many mistakes lately that just make me embarrassed. Like, it'll be like, okay, we need to check to make sure all these game pages are ready. All right, they look ready to me. Well, here's 11 that are missing images. And it's just like, fuck. And I feel so embarrassed, but at the same time, I also feel angry because I'm just like, well, what am I supposed to do? Because none of these game pages have images anywhere else on the internet. They're bundles, and it's sort of understood that they're bundles. So if they don't have screenshots on Steam, on Humble Bundle, on Epic Games Store, or on EA Origin, why do I need to put images on it for Nexus? And it's just like, well, just do it. It's your job. Do it. And so it makes me feel like the intention is to make me feel like I forgot something, when in reality I didn't forget shit. Like, so I do constantly have this feeling of being looked down on, like I don't know anything, and I fall for it because I am so insecure about what is essentially a job I really want to succeed. But every now and then I'll get my head back in the game and I'll just be like, how do I phrase this in a way that's not going to get me in trouble? And I'll just be like, what is the standard operating procedure for the rest of these games that don't have images when I have no images to pull? So like, I just instead of just being like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I just very politely ask, okay, what do you want me to do? So I stay paranoid about it because I don't feel like I'm doing my job well, even though I'm trying really hard. And then every now and then something really cool happens. Like if we make a partnership deal with Rockstar Games, I am a pretty big fucking piece of that because I created the pitch deck and I basically framed the hinging argument of the entire pitch. So if that happens, it's largely due to your boy. So that kind of thing does give me hope.
That's super cool to be able to say though. If that goes through, you can be like, I did this. Like, yeah, that'll be really cool. But
I just loved it. I loved being able to be like, hey, so how about everybody that's selling stolen Grand Theft Auto keys? Like, what if you just let content creators sell them from you instead? And after I passed that off to my superior and they passed it off, he was just like, hey, so they love that. I was just like, yeah, I kind of fucking figured they'd love that. Oh, man. Yeah. And it's also like, I don't ever want to get in trouble for accidentally leaking something because, you know, we've seen leaks happen so much in as passerbys to this industry. And I occasionally learn about stuff that they'll just be like, by the way, don't tell anybody. And it's just like, of course I can't tell anybody. But if I accidentally say something and then it gets out, like that's a big industry leak because Gatsby couldn't keep his fucking mouth shut. Like,
yeah, you'll be the new Tom Holland.
Yeah. You know, like we have pending partnerships that I'm very excited about that I don't know how much of it I am supposed to say. And I feel pretty justified in talking about the Rockstar thing because it's not a sure thing yet. But then if it becomes a sure thing, was I supposed to say anything? I don't know.
Oh.
Something else too is that if you're not directly under NDA, like, you know, whatever. I've been under NDA before because that's something else that I got experience with before even working in the industry was just from being a content creator. We'll get game keys and they'll be like, okay, you can't put content out for this until this date. And I'll be ready to go live and I'll be like, I need to check to see if there's NDA. And I'll be like, oh shit, I was going to go live right now and this is under NDA and I cannot stream it.
Yeah. Yeah. That would suck. Cause I mean, I imagine that would get more than just you in trouble.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my short term is I do enjoy this job, but I can't continue working there if I'm only contract. So I want to make that hop up. How about your short term?
I've thought of a couple now. I don't know if you could call this short term or long term. So maybe it's more of like a middle term goal. But like I've been slowly learning Japanese because I want to go to Japan very badly. And if it hadn't been for COVID, I would have already went. But that had completely fucked up my plans. And now I can't go until they open up the country again, which is who the fuck knows when. But those are kind of two of my short-term / mid-long-term goals is to learn Japanese and finally travel to Japan and travel around for like 2 weeks there and then come back. I've been wanting to do that for a while. It's not... I know a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, what a fucking weeb, you know, or whatever. But like, it's not solely based on like... oh, I like anime and video games. Now, is that shit everywhere there? Of course it is. But, like, Japan is fucking beautiful. Like, I love their culture. I love a lot of things about Japan. If it were possible to, like, retire there, I absolutely would do that. But I don't think that's a thing. Like, they are incredibly, what's the word? They're can't think of the word. It's a word like racist, but against
xenophobic.
Yeah, xenophobic. That's it. They're very weird about foreigners from anywhere. So I don't know that a foreigner could just own land and retire there. You'd have to get like a permanent residency, which you could, if you marry a local, that's immediate permanent residency. So you know, who the fuck knows how that'll ever go? But those are two of mine. I guess another one for me is I'm super duper looking to move right now because I'm having to drive kind of far to
Yeah.
work now. I have to drive like 38 miles there and 38 back every day, which isn't a big deal. That's not very long. It takes me like, I don't know, 30 minutes to get to work. So like that's not a big deal. But I get tired of places I live pretty quickly. Like after like 5 years, I'm just like, man, I'm real tired of this house. Like I just want to move. I just want some new scenery, something different. So I'm looking to move right now. I do own my own house, so I'll have to sell this one. I don't rent. That will be a major pain in the ass, I imagine. Right now the housing market is actually crazy. My house is worth roughly $80,000 more than I gave for it. And
Nice.
if I could sell right now, I would literally make a lot of money compared to what I gave for it, and am still paying on it. So if I could sell it, which would be difficult because economy's not the best right now. I'm kind of confused as to why houses are so fucking expensive. I guess it's because like wood prices are so ridiculous right now. It would be hard to build one from scratch. I don't
Well,
really.
I'll give
know.
you another piece of it that not a lot of people understand is the housing economy, not just for sale but also for rent, is disturbingly reliant on people getting kicked out of their homes. And due to COVID, there's been a moratorium placed on how much of that can be done, and that has affected the value of homes.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's
Yep.
that's interesting. Unfortunate, but interesting. But yeah, so I'm looking to move a little bit closer to where I work. I'm gonna make damn sure I can get fiber when I get there because fuck Comcast. I'm tired of them. I'm trying to think of a long-term goal for me. I remember a long time ago I told you that
in a podcast. Well, actually, it was an AMA, but it's in the podcast playlist.
Yeah. I told you that if by the time I was 35, if I had not gotten married or been in another serious relationship by then, I was just going to leave this state. And that is 2 years from now. And I still absolutely would follow through on that if my career hadn't jumped all of a sudden.
And in fairness, I think in that same statement you had said if I don't get in a relationship or get a pretty significant promotion at my job.
Yeah,
and
maybe
so
that's
the way I'd been imagining that, because you did kind of transition up in a way.
Yeah, but since it jumped up, I couldn't possibly apply somewhere else right now to be a network admin, and then me come in for an interview and they ask me all these network questions and me be like, so I would just be fucked in that sense. But who knows? 5 years from now, once I've got more experience and I've got 10 years IT experience on me, I might can go somewhere else. I don't know. Here lately, me and Drew have kind of been joking around, like half joking, half not joking, talking about where we're gonna like retire to someday, or what we're gonna do in retirement. And for you guys who don't know anything about teacher retirement, they used to have something that's called Tier 1. That's what my dad is. My dad's Tier 1 because he's been teaching for like, I don't know how long, like 30 years or so, probably longer. But my dad was a teacher. Now he's an assistant superintendent. So he's moved up his ladder as far as he can go too. And so he has that Tier 1 retirement, and his retirement is insane. And he's going to retire next year. And that is basically going to be left to me when he passes someday, which hopefully is many, 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 many years from now. Anytime I talk about this money, I kind of get upset with myself because it sounds like I'm just looking forward to that money, which would mean my dad's death. And I'm not. But my dad has basically set me the fuck up for life. I will have his retirement when he passes, but I will probably have my own retirement by the time he passes, so I'll have his and mine. So we're looking at me making about $6,000 a month in my retirement. So I can go about anywhere at that point. And I can't decide on whether I want to like retire somewhere to like Oregon, somewhere like super beautiful, or if I want to like buy a super tiny house somewhere, just have like a home base and then just travel like all the time, just fucking travel. But me and Drew talk about that a lot. So that's a big long-term goal for me is I either want to have a very nice house or I want to travel a lot.
Before I dig into my long-term goals, you talking about like that uncomfortable feeling of like that retirement and that life insurance kind of relying on your father's death, but he has done what he can to set you up for when that happens. Laz and I are both in that situation where like my mother has life insurance and her parents have life insurance. My mother is on again, off again, dealing with alcoholism and suicidal tendencies. So I don't want her to pass, but she has done what she can to prepare us for if that happens. And then likewise, her parents are members of the COVID isn't real and Trump is still the president death cult. So like there's no telling how long they're gonna be around, not just from that, but also from their age. So we've been put in this awkward situation of like, we don't want to dream of their death, but we realistically have to factor them into our long-term plans because it's something we are kind of relying on. Like,
Right.
I no longer have a teacher retirement. I don't have access to that anymore, and I can't get it unless I continue to teach, which with any hope, I won't. So,
Yeah. And
we do have to try to figure that out.
yeah, and not to completely cut you off, but I meant to explain tier 2 when I was talking about tier 1.
Yes.
Yes, so tier 2 is what everyone is nowadays, and as far as the education retirement system goes, and it sucks. Like you can't retire until you're like 65, and it's just fucking terrible. I'm not going to go over everything other than it sucks, and if they don't change it, people are never going to become teachers anymore. Like they are going to have to change it, and they're going to have to change it soon.
Yeah.
But
like
Dad's tier 1, he's grandfathered in, so.
I have acquaintances now still teaching who, like, if the additional expectations placed on them were bad before, COVID has just made people fucking stupid in terms of what they think teachers will do. Because they'll be like, hey, we don't have enough bus drivers, so we need some of you to start driving buses. Like, hey, we don't have enough subs, so during your planning period, we're gonna need some of you to like go teach other classes, and like that's against like union law. Like that's like get reported kind of shit. But as soon as they find out that you reported them, guess who's not getting tenure? So it's just like, what the fuck do you do?
I guess we should explain. Like, I know we've talked about tenure a lot already, but we should probably touch on it a little bit. I know he's already mentioned that once you're there for 3 years, you're tenured, and at that point, you're not. I was always led to believe you're impossible to fire at that point, and that is not even remotely true. It is a lot harder to fire you. They can't just be like, "Oh, I disagree with you. Get the fuck out." But like, you have to directly defy your superiors and shit like that to get fired at that point.
It's kind of like when you're not tenured, you're kind of a contract employee. Like they don't
really
fire you; they just choose to not hire you again.
Yeah.
And then once you're tenured, you're actually employed, and you're treated to the same rules that people in most normal jobs are. So I was never given a reason for my firing, but I think it was probably because I didn't want to teach yearbook again. and so that meant somebody else had to do it. And that made him mad. Like it was either that or I had kids who weren't doing their work and I was supposed to just bullshit the numbers so that they would graduate. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, and it's just like, you want to stick to your guns, but you kind of can't. Like I reconnected with a good friend recently. And I was tickled to learn that he was teaching, but that he also didn't let go of his morals. He was like, I taught for a year at one school and I had a student who was gay and I let that student pick like LGBT rights as an essay topic. And that pissed another parent off and they told the superintendent and the superintendent told me I needed to take that away as an option. And I said no. And told them fuck off. And so they fired me. And I was like, yeah, they fucking did, didn't they?
Yeah, it's like I know several teachers other than Jesse, and he doesn't even teach now. But like I talk to them about this kind of stuff too, and it's funny to hear stories like that because like back when I still worked at my last school, and back when Jesse, you remember our previous principal, the one that got fired.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, she came around to one teacher and was just like, "Hey, you need to rearrange your room because this is not how we like our rooms set up here. The superintendent likes them set up this way." And this teacher was basically like, "Well, I don't care." And this is like a first year teacher. You just don't do this shit that I'm about to tell you. You just don't do this.
Yeah.
And she was politely being like, "You really need to move your desks around so that they face this way, and like this is how all the classrooms do it. This is the way the superintendent wants it. If they come around and see it, you're gonna be in some deep shit." And they basically was just like, "I don't care, fuck off." And they were like, "Okay." And then lo and behold, eventually the superintendent did come around. That teacher was fired almost immediately. Because you just don't defy your boss like that. Like, and even if you had tenure, that would still be kind of a dick move if they were politely being like, "Hey, we would like for your desks to be this way." And it's like, "Nah, fuck you."
Yeah.
Like you just got to learn to work with people. Now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say. You know, if they'd been like, "Oh, you need to teach your class outside in 100-degree weather every day," you could be like, "Yeah, no," on that, no. But like, you just got to learn to work with people. So someday, I'm sure you in chat and you listen to this on Spotify or YouTube or wherever will come to realize that if you don't already.
Yeah, it's like every job has going to come with its compromises where you don't think something should be done a certain way, but you're going to be told to do it that way anyway. And depending on how comfortable you are in your position, you know, sometimes you may find yourself saying this doesn't need to be done this way, and you know, you might be able to get away with that. And in teaching, you can't, and it sucks because you can do really well as a teacher if you just do exactly what your admin tells you to do, but it means letting kids down a lot. It means you'll have like kids who try really hard who start to realize there's no point in them trying really hard when you're just gonna give other kids the same grade for doing nothing. And it's the kind of thing that I've known a lot of teachers that are just like, well, I'll just do that for 3 years, and then after my 3 years I can do whatever I want. But then sometimes those teachers don't even make it their 3 years. They did everything and they still get let go because, I don't know, a parent complained. So, you know, not a job I would recommend. Moral of the story, again, you would be surprised what people will pay you to do. Like, really start thinking about the things that you enjoy. And that might be a segue into my long-term goals, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it. I'm ready to hear them. I'm sure you want to buy a house eventually.
Yes, goddamn yes. The problem is that Laz and I don't know where we want to live.
And that is a problem. Like, that's a legit concern. Because I mean, you know, without going into her business or even too much of yours, like, you both have different separate jobs and different separate like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
In her field, it's a very similar situation of I don't really need to buy a house until I know for sure that we are committed to this project.
Yeah, to stay in like that area for a long time.
Yeah, and like she doesn't want to get a house where we currently are, but she knows we can't afford a house in the adjacent area, and you know, it is important to me to stay close to family, and I don't mean my birth family. I mean you guys, but at the same time, so many of us are already so strewn, it kind of is what it is. And thank God for the internet, we're still together. So, you know, sometimes she'll talk about living somewhere way the fuck away, and I'll just be like, that doesn't sound fun to me, but if it's what's going to make your job work, and hopefully I'm going to continue to work remotely, so I would potentially be the easy part, right? But that's also something else, is that if Nexus doesn't stay remote, but I think they will, they really seem to be shifting towards a truly remote company. We have an employee recently who was like, hey boss, I want to live in Colombia. And they were like, okay, you still gonna do your job? Dope. And that was like a recent like meeting of ours. They were like, hey, if you want to live somewhere else and you want to continue to work remotely, let's work it out. So I no longer worry about them being like they were when I first joined Nexus, where they were like, we can't take you seriously unless you're willing to move to Austin, Texas. Because I was like, well, the schools really fucking suck here. So like if things don't work out with us and you suddenly fire me, I'm going to have to find a fucking teaching job. And that's not making me feel really great.
Yeah.
So,
Not to mention, like, you can't just start teaching at any time. Like, there's a window every year. And if you miss it or don't get hired, fucking forget it till next year. Like,
yeah. So, I think in terms of long term, if Nexus survives and turns into a big thing, I really want to have had my foot in the door. It's something I've said for a long time. I want to have had that nepotism that I can continue to train and be a well-educated individual in this field, and I can have worked with this company since it was fucking founded and really have that context and continue to help it to strive. Like if Nexus turned out to be the next Patreon, I would want to have been in the room where it happened. So that is a thing. But if it falls through in terms of long term, I really hope that I can transition into some other remote games industry thing. Like I want to continue to have the same work-life balance I have right now. Like, I think that if I go back to teaching, I might go crazy. Like, I think it might really break my heart.
Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, people keep encouraging you to get more teaching jobs or try to get a teaching job. The only reason I would ever push you to get another one is because you're in debt for it. So, like, you might as well use it. But if you hate it, then fuck it. Like...
Yeah, that's really what's funny is what you're talking about has a name. It's called sunk cost fallacy.
Oh, yeah.
And if you recall, we had to deal with that whenever we were stranded in Panama City Beach, Florida, where we spent like $1,000+ on a fucking what was it? What was wrong with it? It was the transmission. Like on a transmission that just didn't fix the problem. And Candy was like, "Well, we've already put so much money into it. We've got to put more." Like it was just like no. Like, but she's still driving that car today, so ultimately it paid off for her because that car is still going for her now and she hasn't had to get a new car. But in terms of my situation, a lot of times people have been like, well, maybe you'll have better luck if you have a master's. Why the fuck would I go back to school for a master's if my experience with bachelor's teaching has been this bad? Like, I don't see it getting a whole lot better. And, a lot of people in teaching, they go into like admin. I would never want to be a principal or an admin in any way. I would want to be a teacher. And that's kind of the downside of teaching, is that if you move up in teaching, you don't move up to be a higher paid teacher. You move up to a different position. And I didn't want to do any of that shit. I wanted to teach.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of like the opposite of my dad, because he started out teaching and then he moved to administration and then he moved all the way to the central office. And like it's funny because last week, like I mentioned, he's the assistant superintendent. So he's number 2 to the top dog in our entire district. So he had COVID last week and he was out the entire week. And our superintendent finally, when he came back Monday, he was just like, "Thank God you're back." He's just like, "I'm tired of dealing with all this shit by myself." Because like my dad's over a whole lot of stuff, and that fell all directly on our super when he was out. So I wouldn't want to do my dad's job. Like, I don't even want to do my boss's job, the one I am suspecting they're grooming me for. Because holy shit, I've never seen someone as busy as that woman. Dude, she's a fucking super trooper, man. Like, it's gonna have to pay me like 90 grand.
It seems like for a lot of people, the thought is, I'm gonna keep moving up and keep getting more responsibilities and keep getting more money. And I'm just like, I don't know why that's your American dream, but my American dream is to get good enough at my job that I can do it well without having a stroke. Like, I just don't want to have a stroke, and I want to actually enjoy my free time, and I want to have vacations, and I want to live my life without constantly thinking about my job. Like, I just want my job to be something that I do in order to pay for the enjoyable things in my life.
Right.
And I think that has been shaped by teaching, because when you're a teacher, everybody thinks your whole fucking life should be teaching. Like, they think you should be spending time outside of school working on stuff. If there's a problem, they're like, well, you're just supposed to knuckle up and do it. This is your calling. You're our fucking slave.
Yeah, you're our slave, literally.
Yeah. So now, like, that's part of why I like this remote job in this setting now, because I'm just like, holy shit. No wonder people wanted me to get an office job. Like it's not that people with office jobs don't work. It's that when you teach first and then do an office job, you just go, they pay these people to do this? like it's mostly nothing. It's mostly waiting for people to answer fucking emails.
Yeah. I mean, like, no shit. Like our buddy Richard, he's also a teacher and he's also a coach, and I can't imagine how little free time he has. I can't remember what he coaches. I know he used to coach softball. I think it might be volleyball now, or that might be reversed. But either way, like, anytime I'm hanging out with him, which I haven't seen him in like 2 years at this point, but anytime we used to hang out, he would be on the phone with parents, like, calling to bitch him out and stuff. And I'm just like, man, you couldn't pay me enough to be a teacher. Like, work goes home with you. You don't stop working. And unless you're sleeping, and I'm just like, that sucks. Like they don't get paid enough for that shit.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And that's the problem. And it just, I think it, for me, took the context of working a job with such unrealistic expectations that now a job with realistic expectations seems like heaven. Like it seems like the closest I'll get to eternal reward, because it's just like, oh, I could earn money doing something that I don't hate, go home and don't even think about it. Like, that was the only benefit to working at the hospital. But I will say, I would be driving home and they would text me and be like, where are these drugs? And I'd be like, they're your drugs now.
In my pockets. Don't worry about it.
Oh, there were so many times at the hospital when they'd call me and be like, what, this, that, and the other. And I'd just be like, I put everything where it was supposed to go. Leave me alone. Like, just leave me alone. Yeah. So I'm really glad I'm not there anymore, because that was not a respectful position. Yeah, I did not feel valued.
I just hate it for people like Richard, and he may love it. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't talked to him in a while. We talk on Facebook every once in a while, but that's about it. But like some of my friends are just working themselves to death, and like, I can see it, and I hate it for them. Because like, that used to be William back when he was at his old job. He worked all the fucking time. Couldn't say no. I don't know if he like literally could not say no, or they'd fire him. I don't know. But he was like a manager at a, I'm not going to mention where, but he worked 24/7, and he finally got out of that. And now, unfortunately, Gino, that person is you. Like, I see how much you work and how hard you work, and I'm just like, how does he do it, man? This man is crazy. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I have a lot of respect for people like that, but I worry, because I think we have been conditioned to joke about how much we work. We've been conditioned to be like, oh, you worked overtime, pussy. I work 80 hours a day. And it's just like, I think if you could take a moment to stop joking about it, you realize you are actually at much higher risk of like stroke. Like, you literally are. Like,
like when people say that they're working to death, like, it's the most literal sense.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, let me stop you. Is the stream okay? Because all of my mixer like audio levels have stopped working.
Huh, really? Okay, I'm gonna listen to it for a second.
I'm pretty sure my Streamlabs is completely fucked. I might have ran out of hard drive space.
Okay, it's fine. I listened to it for a moment. It seems fine.
No, I've still got plenty of hard drive space. Yeah, my whole shit's frozen. I can't even click on the program. Like, the timer for the uptime and the timer for the recording is not moving. And my chat, I can't see my chat. Can they hear me? Is it okay?
Yeah, they can still hear you. Like, even the heads are still bobbing.
This is weird. Okay, sorry. I just needed to make sure it wasn't completely fucked up.
Yeah, and the good news is, because you are recording in MKV and because I am backup recording, we're fine.
Oh, it caught up. It just caught up. It just unfroze completely. I don't know what the hell that was about. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. But yeah, long term, I want to have a job where I get paid big boy money instead of medium boy money, doing about the same amount of work and still like putting my mind to work solving problems in order to help a company like this succeed. I enjoy that. And I really enjoy interacting with the industry. I would love to be going to like PAX and shit like that. And I tried to weasel my way into PAX this year, but again, why would they send me when they can send the 2 people that they gave my partnerships manager job?
Or literally anyone that lives in Texas, because that's where PAX South is. Like, I don't know why they would bother to fly you out.
Yeah, but you know, like I still want that. And ultimately, at the end of the road, I want to finally have the free time to do what I originally wanted to do and write fucking books. Because I got that teaching job so that I have free time in the summer, and I fucking didn't. Like your summer vacation is so much shorter than you realize it is because they ask so much of you. And like, I don't really have the attention span. I know that Stephen King wrote Carrie while he was teaching, and I just don't have that kind of attention span. Realistically, he probably didn't either. I just don't have that kind of heroin. Like, I just
yeah.
like so I oh, look at that's Over Emotional Robot. What's up, buddy? So yeah, I still do want to write my book, but I need to transition into a job that isn't weighing me down so much, and I need to get on top of my mental health in order to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get there one day. It's just taking a lot longer.
A hell of a lot longer, but there for a while, and I do want everybody who's listening to take this to heart. There for a while, I was beating myself up about not getting things done in the timeline that I wanted to get them done in. But ultimately, you can't have that attitude. Like, yes, it is important to hold yourself accountable. Don't be that guy that says, yeah, I'm going to write a book one day for 30 years. And your friends are like, how about that fucking book? Like, but like,
yeah, but it's not like you're just lazy, though, is the thing.
Yeah. Like, shit takes a lot longer than you realize. Like, because, like, if I could sustain myself writing, I would, but I can't. I have to work on all sorts of other shit. And a big way I've been looking at it is I spent at least 3 years just depressed and not doing anything. So I'm typically subtracting that off of my age whenever I think about, like, where I am and where I want to be. Right. Because I'm just like, well, for at least 3 years, I was just in a funk doing nothing because I was not on top of my mental health. So I might as well have been crippled, you know?
Basically. Like, not to drum up old memories or anything, but I remember when we were graduating high school, you were like, I'm going to write my book this summer.
Over the summer.
And I was just like, man, I don't think I said this out loud to you, but in my head, I was like, I don't know shit about writing a book, and I'm no author, but there is no fucking way he's going to write this book in 3 months. So I was like, there's just no way.
But meanwhile, like, that was sort of Stephen King's mentality, is like, no book should take you longer than 3 months to write. And it's like, okay, Steve.
Yeah, okay, like, yeah, maybe for you, like, one of the like most popular authors ever.
Also, like, again, I just didn't realize how bad my anxiety was. Like, you can't. I don't know if I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I know that's what Drew has, and I see a little bit of myself in him. But you can't write a book in a short period of time if you're constantly having panic attacks about it not being good enough. And that was also happening to me, like, way too much.
Well, at least you've got people now, like William and Amy and everybody who's like, hey, when's the next chapter? I want to read it.
Yeah, they were, back when I was writing drafts, they were so supportive and they were so into it. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, that's so validating.
Yeah, I'm sure that really helps.
Whenever we hit that stalling point, I was like, the frustrating part is there are two forms of art I like making in my free time: bro op videos and writing. And just the fact of the matter is that the instant feedback on bro op is so much bigger because there's more people. Like, if I could do what I did with Apple Biter with Amy and Will on a grand scale, I might just get it done. And there are people doing that now. Like there are people like selling their books a chapter at a time. And I'd be fucking scared to do that, but it might just fucking work.
Yeah.
So
I mean, hell, that might be something you could consider for your like your own Patreon that has nothing to do with us.
yeah.
Because like I can't be one of those people of that William and Amy is to you because I don't like reading. So like it's not that I don't like your story. I don't like fucking words on paper. Just reading is so boring to me. I just can't do it.
And, that's something for a long time I was really terrified about whether or not I would have your approval on what I wrote, because I know you and I are just not aligned in terms of our like creative interests. And then I finally kind of came to realize like, well, he'll like it or he doesn't. Like Chase doesn't like the same kind of stuff as me. So like, that's not really a big deal.
Yeah. The only problem I ever had with your book, and we fixed it, was when I wasn't real. And I finally had to sit you down and be like, listen. And we won't go through that whole thing, but that is a funny memory.
Yeah. My book has a lot of characters that were inspired by real life people, and over time I have refined them into like actual characters instead of just like pastiches of people I know. So yeah, there was one that was meant to represent him that was just a piss poor representation. But yeah.
Well, it's fixed now, so it's all good.
Yeah, like if all went well, all I really want to do is have time to play games with my friends and write my book. And if I'm going to have time to play games with my friends, I'm going to have time to keep trying Bro Op. Like I really, for a long time, that was my long-term goal. I wanted Bro Op to be my 9 to 5, and I wanted to write when I wasn't streaming or editing. And instead, Bro Op somehow got me my 9 to 5. So things are still going well, but who knows where we'll go from here.
I mean, at least if this channel shut down tomorrow, at least you could say I've got my current job because of it.
Yeah. And I think that I'm in a good position now where because I have the context of being a failed streamer and a failed content creator, and I don't mean that to be like bitter. Like I actually mean that as practical as possible, because I know what it's like to constantly like hope. I think I'm in a good position to help other people like us if I work for companies like Nexus. Like, because I'm, like they'll all the time be in those roundtable meetings and they'll be like one of my superiors once asked, why don't streamers just pay for ads more often and just like market themselves in paid ads? And it's like, well, kids, the internet fucking hates paid promotion. Yeah. And the only thing they hate more than paid promotion is unpaid promotion. It's like, if you're trying to promote your shit at all, you are the scum of the earth.
I thought you were going to say the only thing they hate more than paid promotion is DLC, and that's what we sell.
The only thing that the internet hates more than DLC is women. God, boycott Blizzard. Your new slogan should be write a fucking book.
Yeah, as much as I am absolutely going to buy and play Diablo 2 Resurrected, fuck Blizzard.
Okay, where do we go from here, buddy?
I don't know. I feel like we can kind of wrap it up here. We're sitting at about an hour and 24 minutes. I guess the takeaway from at least some of this talk is, get a job doing something you like, and if possible, a job that works Monday through Friday, so that you at least have a weekend to do whatever you want.
Yeah, like court. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Scheduling with adults is hell. Like,
oh yeah.
Whenever we used to play D&D in college, it was easy. And then like both trying to schedule bro op stuff and trying to schedule just D&D and just fun shit is such a pain in the ass because we don't all have the same off days. It feels like some of my friends are fucking dead. Like, because it's just like, when do I even get to see them? So yeah, work-life balance is important. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. Don't let anybody tell you you've just got to suck it up. Like, you've got to live. Like you've got to be able to live and be happy, or else you're gonna lose your fucking mind. Like, you are worth so much more than that. You are worth your time. So yeah, get a job where you can control your hours to suit what you need. And we're seeing more and more lately that if they can't give you that, you're going to work somewhere else, and they're going to cry about it and say, people don't want to work anymore.
Yeah. Something else about working, like, not necessarily as little as you can, but like to keep you healthy and okay mentally. Here the other day, Drew was telling me about a book he had read. I can't remember the title of it, but I do remember he said that it was about working only 4 hours a week or a day.
Mm-hmm.
It was either a day or a week. And I thought he was crazy. And then, but my nephew was with us, and he was like, "Oh shit, yeah, I've read that book too." And I was just like, "Oh my god, you two are the same." but yeah, there's apparently a book out there that they both highly recommend about working 4 hours a day or a week or something, and it's supposedly pretty good. So maybe you guys can look into that if you want to, or don't. I don't care. Not my book. Fuck it. I don't even like reading.
Well, hell yeah. Thank you for another excellent topic. I've really enjoyed this one and just leveling about it. It was good to get this off of my chest because, you know, I put out that video recently just like trying to level with fans and be like, here's what we need from you guys. And I don't feel like it got the same like impact as the other like Bro Up Needs Your Help video. And so I thought about like whether or not I would make any sort of address again in the future to just be like, so here's what we're dealing with on our end. Here's what we want. And here's what you guys can do to help. Because like Chase and I were talking about this recently. We tried the Friday, Saturday, Sunday stream schedule. And that's not really working out.
It worked for a while. I'll give it credit.
Yeah.
It worked for a while, but eventually me and William and maybe a few others were just like, man, there's no weekend anymore. Like, it kind of sucks. So kind of moving off of that.
Yeah, like, and I'm just like, if we're going to stream less days in the week, we should be streaming for longer. So that's something I want to jump on top of. But I will say this, I think I may have said it in one of our internal discussions recently. If push comes to shove, I would stop streaming before I stopped Bro Op, because that it would at least give me more time to edit, and then we might be able to edit down footage of us playing together that wasn't live streamed and might be able to recapture the magic of some of those older videos. But I don't necessarily know if that's the hiccup, really. Like, it probably isn't. You know, if I have the time to do it, I want to do both. Like, because I love both. But we will figure it out. And we hope to continue to have your support more than your money, but your time. Your time is so tremendously important to us.
Yeah. Like, I know we say it all the time, but it is so much more important than the money to me to have the higher view count so that we can get noticed. Which, speaking of, this has been a fantastic podcast as far as numbers go. You guys are killing it tonight. So that's amazing. You want me to go ahead and give you some feedback on what we did different tonight? Sure.
I used my Zapier function to post our stream to Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all three of those places with hashtags. And the tweet that I put out announcing this stream has been retweeted 4 times and liked 4 times just on Twitter. Let's see. Let's check Instagram. It was liked on Instagram. Let's see. And the YouTube video. The YouTube video announcement only has 6 fucking views. But, you know, it's something that I'm playing around with. Like, Gino didn't get a notification. And so we're just sitting here going, I hope you guys like pings, because nobody's getting notifications of like new video uploads or streams. So we're going to throw it at you fucking everywhere we possibly can. Yeah. So speaking of which, hold on. Let me pull up a link that you guys need. I haven't made a command for it yet, but I'm going to start using this a lot more. So I have just linked our kind of like map for the whole brand, and there is a link in there that looks like an envelope. That's our mailing list. Everybody in here needs to be on our mailing list, because that's like the only way I can guarantee we're going to get information to you. So here's something else that happened recently. YouTube's going to start making it so that if a person hasn't opened. No, it's Twitch. Twitch is going to make it to where if a person hasn't opened their Twitch notification and so many like Twitch notifications, that they're just going to stop notifying you.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, so it's like, we've got to do whatever we fucking can, because all of these like platforms are just giving up on us before we're even ready to give up on ourselves. So we've literally got to spam the internet with our existence, or else we're gonna cease to exist.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're someone like Ninja or Shroud or whatever, like, you're important to Twitch. Like, they know you bring people there. They don't give a fuck about us. Like,
yeah, but yeah, that's my piece. Thank you so much. This has been a kick-ass podcast, and we truly appreciate you for sticking around all the way to the end.
Yeah, this has been really good. Who knows when the next one will be? I know we've been very inaccurate with the whole, once a month or once every 2 weeks or whatever with podcasts, but
yeah,
I'm trying to get back on it. I've got a bunch of shit ready. I've got the anime one ready as soon as Gino doesn't work 24 hours in a day and he can join us. So that will be just the second I can get him settled down for a minute, we'll do that one again. And then I've got several others ready. So we're set up for the next 2 or 3 months, probably, at least. But when they come out, fuck if I know. Your guess is as good as mine. We'll get there when we get there.
We don't have a shout out command right now, but special thanks to Over Emotional Robot for tuning in. Very good friend of mine that I've recently reconnected with. He also streams. Over Emotional Robot is a teacher who streams, so he is trying the other route that I never tried, where he is trying to sort of manage his public appearance while also streaming, and I was way too chicken shit to do that. So he has a, for the most part, family friendly stream, but has the same kind of like sense of humor that you're used to from us. So definitely check him out.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, because I figure you can cut it back somewhere